Belal, his performance was, what you would expect.
Mokaev said that his contract is up.
I think the PFL is going to get a great undefeated guy.
Really?
Good luck to him.
The fight has managed to get you to up the bonuses. Do you think there's an argument that maybe you should just up them to...
I think tonight showed that we should not. No. You can thank everybody on this card for that. Nobody fought any harder. There was no sense of urgency. Holy shit, I want the 100,000. 7 straight. Who gives a
This brings up a question, especially if it is wrestling. I definitely have my issues with the story about Mokaev in particular. Is the UFC suppressing talent, particularly quote-unquote boring styles?
Well, if we're using Mokaev as the example, there's rumors and people saying, oh, there's a whole bunch of shit going on backstage, as Dana says, that is the matchmakers don't like him. And the thing is, he probably doesn't bring an audience because the overall amount of people think he's boring. I think he's boring. Do you think he's boring?
Not really.
Should he be fired for that?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is because he's boring and doesn't draw an audience, they can't put up with his antics. Sean Strickland, they put up with his antics because he brings people to watch. Mokaev is not doing anything for them.
Yeah.
So they're not going to pay out and go through the PR nightmare of covering for this guy if he doesn't bring in any money.
I've heard some people point out that he has 1.6 million followers on Instagram. That is impressive.
Yeah.
But I don't see that crowd support at a show. I don't see that. I didn't see that the other night. There was actually a fair bit of hype for that fight. But in terms of like popularity and the way people were responding to him during his walkout, during his entrance, any of that.
Feels like he got a bigger pop in Abu Dhabi when he fought there, right? I
Well,
feel like
yeah, being an Islamic fighter, they always back their guys a lot, don't they? So, but like the thing is, having such a actual heated rivalry with Carp that he did, there was things going on behind the scenes, Jorge Masvidal and then getting to the face-off and he doesn't even weigh in. He just wants to get a Carp straight away. You think this guy's going to try and murder him. And then, apart from that, his debut where he dusted Cody Durden, ever since then, he's been very sort of just boring.
Well, he's been
very boring.
He's been getting finishes in the third round.
He has, and that is impressive.
His output, his strike rate, his work rate is quite low. I think he's got, especially early on, he had high control time.
He did the Max Holloway point and then backed away.
Maybe he was faking him.
He threw one punch in 10 seconds after doing the Holloway point in the center of the cage. It's like, what are you doing?
It's like you got at least
you have to follow through if you're going to do that.
You got to do it a little bit.
I think it's also a case with these two. It's Manel Karp is a guy who will not take shit from anybody.
Also, let's not
It's
forget.
not a good person to have met.
Well, the reason he attacked him backstage is because Manel Karp was bullying him, so he decided to ask him for a picture and sucker punch him during that.
Well, let's not forget as well, Karp looked like he broke his toe or dislocated a toe in there. And he still couldn't take advantage of it. It was kind of like Karp didn't really have a great performance either, to be fair, but Mokaev definitely just did what he had to do.
So you're not making the strongest case for his firing, though, if you're just complaining about his fight style the whole time.
Personally, I don't really care about him being fired because,
let's go back to the question then. Does the UFC suppress talent?
They gave him a main event against Alex Perez. They gave him his own main event, and he's still very new and very young, and obviously they're trying to get people excited about him. But he had a fight against Alex Perez that was boring, and he said, "Don't give me a title shot. I am boring." He said that. It's their business, the UFC, and if for some reason the matchmakers don't like Mokaev for things he's doing outside the cage, then they don't need him. Yeah, it's suppressing talent in a way because they're stopping him to achieve, what we all regard as the greatest championship in the sport is the UFC. And if we're stopping doing that, yes, technically we are suppressing him. However, it's their choice to put on fights. If they want, they can do Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards.
Why caveat it? Why caveat it? If you're firing somebody because of their style and they're really good at that style, was supposed to be in the top 5.
He's undefeated.
I'm also not saying
he's undefeated. He's got one of the most decorated amateur careers literally ever.
Yeah.
That's talent that is being said, okay, that's too boring, you're out of here.
I'm saying he's bad for business because he's causing problems when you don't have a profile yet. And as we always come back to in our conversations, it is about your performances. So inherently, this conversation is probably linked.
I think it's the same way as a star athlete in a star-driven promotion. You're either valuable to us to put up the headache or you're not. And if you're not, you're Paul Daly and you get, thrown the fuck out.
It also might be like one of those things where they trying to clip it before it becomes a major problem. So imagine that guy goes on an epic run and he does win the belt and it's just a massive nuisance to deal with, but he's already at the size where they can't fire him. They just have to do exactly what he wants. The problem is right now, what we're seeing with Conor McGregor, he just leverages his star power all the time, doesn't he? And the UFC don't want to be in a business where they have to deal with the stars that are going to dictate the show. The UFC want to dictate the show, don't they?
So to go along with that, the same thing happened with Khabib after the 229 brawl. Dana tried to fire all his boys after that. They did nothing to Khabib. Khabib threw his weight around and said, "You're not firing my guys, so you got to deal with me." And so Dana backed off and reinstated their contracts. It was as simple as that, because the problem is, if you fire them, they go to the competition. It's as simple as that. Let's steel man the argument, to put it in that set of terms. What about Brendan Loughnane? He went for a takedown in the last, few seconds of the fight, which was amazing. And he's a top level, talent. He's won PFL tournaments. And they said, "We're not going to sign you because you went for a takedown in the last 10 seconds. And Dana didn't necessarily say that Mokaev's style being boring wasn't part of it. There definitely are plenty of cases over the years of Dana and the brass having a very, very open bias.
I mean, they've been firing guys who are boring but also underperforming for a long, long time. It's very difficult to get fired. Like, even Jake Shields, he was doing really, really well. I think he was on one loss. He had lost, but he had been on a win streak before that, and he was inside the top 10, top 5. Boring style and star power, but I'm sure he was also causing problems.
Well, if I argue against myself here, Matt Lindland still got multiple title shots.
Yeah.
John Fitch, who notoriously, he was part of the lawsuit, he was kept around for 8 years, and he deserved another title shot, but that also had a lot to do with him not wanting to fight Josh Koscheck. Not wanting to fight his teammate.
But they gave Fitch good opportunities. Like, they gave him the BJ Penn fight. Probably they wanted BJ to win.
Yeah.
But that's still...
ended up being a draw, so they just said, fuck
which
this.
Is even,
even
worse.
How much do you think has to do with the fact that the sport has evolved so much that Dana, maybe the Fertitas, didn't realize back when they bought it that the best of the best was really going to manifest into the bunch of the best of wrestlers as well. Guys like Khabib and the Dagestani fighters have reigned supreme because it's just a style people cannot beat, especially when you mix in the striking that they've learned, like Islam. So how much of it do you think it is Dana and those guys buying into a sport, thinking it was one thing, and then ultimately it's got to a point now where wrestling is so dominant, yet maybe not as exciting as a knockout, and how they've had to deal with that over the years? Because Dana's only ever said the UFC is where the best go to compete, but now it kind of seems like he's kind of going back on that because they're not delivering the things that he wants, which is the big viral knockouts.
I think as well, it comes back to how the sport is viewed and watched and what is going to get people's eyes nowadays. What is the first full fight they posted online immediately after it happened?
Could have been anything.
Sean O'Malley knocking the fuck out of Aljamain Sterling, who was notoriously disliked, and that's an exciting knockout against their star. So they're putting all their weight on that. They're pushing that as much as they can. If you are a grindy wrestler type who decisions a lot of people, potentially get a sub in the third round, you are not going to get that same level of privilege because that doesn't drive numbers. I feel like nowadays Dana White's brain has been addled by rounds and rounds of power slap and analytics. He's seeing Indian numbers fly up and he's like, these fucking one-hit KOs are amazing. He's like slapping Bisping on the back. He's going, this is fucking
Ross
brilliant.
and all that, the most powerful people on the internet, right?
Exactly,
They're all streamers because they've got really big numbers.
Yeah,
he's
it drives numbers.
He said that we got Aiden Ross, Kai, and Speed all in the same room, the most powerful people on the internet, and it's just the people that generate the most numbers in terms of live viewership. So
is Belal's win.
There's a bunch of fucking kids watching that shit.
Yeah, I know, but
that's the point.
That's what Luke's saying. The numbers, though.
Is Belal's win one of the most insignificant, number-wise, history-wise? Like, does anyone care? Because it's a completely forgettable fucking performance. Like, he won fair and square, dominated Leon. But other than the people that really care, Tommy, Who cares?
I mean,
Like, there's small people that are Belal fans, but like it does
I care.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I care because it's the sport.
But it does nothing for his star power. He's just it does nothing
Well,
for
of
the
course it
UFC.
does.
Well, he's the champion
You could
now.
see Dana was clearly unhappy.
But Bilal's out also like a Palestinian American who's in the midst of like a whole discussion right now that is very, very popular. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people on his side of that argument are really going to want to talk to him. There's a lot of great stories that have come out of
I
his
just think
pen.
with the sport, you have to be excited nowadays. It's no. Why do we all love Pereira so much?
Well,
Why do we all love Tom Aspinall
Yeah,
so
but you
much?
don't have to be exciting. Like
You don't have to be,
the
but
first point
you
was
feel like you
completely
need to.
right. Like if you're Sean O'Malley, you knock someone out, you're going to get that posted, and the UFC are going to push it. If you're Belal and you decision a guy, why would they post that straight? They're not going to. You're completely right about that. But they've never not pushed guys if they're boring, if they deserve the title. It might have taken them longer.
I think it's a short-sighted thing to just be like, yeah, let's just not care about being good at what we do anymore. Belal was the boring guy. Leon was the boring guy. Usman was the boring guy. Woodley was the guy who wouldn't take fights for a couple of years, and a lot of people thought he was boring because he had terrible fights with Jake Shields. Like, terrible fights. Like, these are the boring guys. They're fucking winning, and it matters. And now they're regarded as the best champions, like some of them, of all time. Like, it was getting close. Like, I do think if I'm to put an answer on this, I think, yeah, the UFC absolutely does suppress talent. In the case of Mokaev, though, I think he's a fucking dirtbag that punched somebody after sneaking a photo. And he's not a Habib level star. He's not a Sean Strickland level star. He's pre-championship level. He's not getting that kind of, crowd pops and support from people. I don't care how many Instagram followers he has. It's not translating live. And the UFC found him to be a headache. Like, everything that they're saying about the matchmakers, all that sort of stuff. The PFL stuff, it turns out, may not be true. At least Mokaev is saying that didn't happen in terms of him trying to negotiate with PFL during his contract. But, like, it sounds like he was a headache to deal with. Sounds like maybe fucking around and trying to fight people backstage. The UFC didn't feel like dealing with that and said, you can get the hell out of here, to be honest.
I feel like if you are a wrestling archetype decisionator, whether no fault of your own, you're still trying, you're in there fighting, but you better get ready to wait.
That is true.
You got to wait your turn. Because, like, Belal kind of got on notice again when he finished Sean Brady. It wasn't the greatest finish, but it was a very different Belal to what we've seen beforehand. And we were like, okay, maybe this guy's changed something and now he's way more aggressive. And yeah, he had a good performance about Leon, but it took both Belal and Leon ages to get where they did to have that title fight.
Well, I think it's fair enough. If you're a wrestler and that's your style, then it should take you longer to get to the title.
I would say you need to be a company man and you need to wait your fucking turn. You need to get on. Every time they pan to you in the audience, you need to be going 301, 302, 303, I'll fight him anywhere. Because if you cause trouble and you are not getting... You're not the same kind of character in the cage as you are outside, you can get fucking booted.
So they do suppress talent.
Well, do they suppress wrestling talent?
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Not
the caveat's
necessarily.
not necessary, though. To say they suppress a certain type of talent is still suppressing
I somewhat
talent.
disagree with you, Jason, just because if you look at it from this perspective, if you're a wrestler and you can beat a guy and it takes 15 minutes, even if it's dominant, that's impressive. But to me, it's more impressive if you are able to finish someone or get a knockout. For me, that's a more dominant performance. So therefore, you should get more of a push. I understand that wrestling is boring, maybe, for some people, but I don't think it's about that. I just think genuinely it's more impressive if you knock someone out, and you should get pushed faster.
I think the case that we're also laying out, though, is if you do it with striking and, maybe you don't knock him out, but you have a, few stinging shots, maybe you don't even rock him.
Yeah.
You'll probably still get more attention. I think that's the case that's being made, at least.
Yeah, I think it's things like with Aspinall's win. It's like, yeah, we kind of want to see him test to see like how good is he. But like, if he can just keep knocking everyone out in the first minute, what does it matter? Just keep doing that. If he can, I'm not saying he always will be able to, but if he can, that's just fucking good news for fucking everyone. People love that. Like, you can put Tom Aspinall's whole fight in a short.
Sure.
But who gives a fuck?
I'm
Dana?
saying that gets you fucking views. You can't put Mokaev's fights in a short, can you? Because nothing's fucking happening.
Well, like, okay, so why do you care about that?
Because it's exciting.
No. Like, well, he said Dana, so maybe I was just assuming you were going to say his argument.
That's why they keep people around, is because they can do things like that.
I don't know, like when you think of greatest title fights of all time, the ones that people love, they're not talking about the quick knockouts. They're going to be like full-blooded, like long fights that have like really great back and forth action, and you see people overcome adversity, and you see like, the triumph of someone's spirit like over the other.
That's the key phrase, I think, to win every fan over is overcoming adversity, which we've talked about before as well.
You're just describing everything I hate as a, late 30-something. About fucking, shorts and, 1 minute videos. Like, I think this resonates with a lot of fucking people right now, that a lot of those videos are just kind of garbage. And what you're describing is like, okay, yeah, it doesn't mean that the knockout that you would get in that 10 seconds or whatever it is, but whatever finish is going to happen, that's what's going to be clipped anyway.
And I was thinking, like, why do people love... I mean, maybe went in the other way at some point, but why do people love Mike Tyson? Because he's a fucking savage. He went out there and just knocked people out in the first round.
Yeah.
It's like what I'm putting forward is like, do you need to be this like guy who goes through wars to gain fans? Or nowadays, can you just?
Why is he not regarded as the greatest of all time?
Because he didn't overcome adversity.
He never was tested. Yeah, that was a big part of it, and he got his fuse got cut relatively short because of all the shit that happened outside of the boxing ring for him.
A name,
and then he did lose. Of course they do.
Yeah, of course they do.
But they don't consider him the greatest. They would consider Muhammad Ali the greatest.
I think it's interesting when you go to TNT Sports on the YouTube channel. They do fight highlights the next day. They cut out all the wrestling. As soon as the fight goes to the ground, they cut it out until there's a threat of a submission against the cage or on the ground. And I think that's really interesting that they do that. They don't regard Belal Muhammad's ground control as highlights to that fight. The thumbnail to that on TNT was Leon bloodying up Belal, even though Belal won. Why did they choose to do that?
I don't think they should show the control, Tom, because it doesn't score points. There are 0 points awarded for controlling someone. But
they wouldn't be doing it if it did score.
No, but like
they wouldn't be doing
it.
But with the takedown, you've taken them down, you've changed position. It's now your opportunity to land ground and pound, which scores points, or to attempt submissions, which scores points. If you sit on top of them,
all right,
I'd skip it. It's control. It's a setup to that point.
If you're putting a highlight reel together of your fights, you're not putting the moment while you're on the ground covering his mouth and you hear him go, ah.
Yeah, because it doesn't score points. But why would you show that?
Alex,
because it doesn't mean anything.
It used to be part of the scoring criteria. But no one... Okay, listen to the rest of my sentence. Nobody put that on a highlight reel when it did matter.
True.
He's absolutely right. They're called highlights.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm arguing like, why would it be in there anyway?
The point is, and I do think this is absolutely true, whether in the side of you just hate the fact that they're wrestlers or you like the fact that they're wrestlers, no matter what you're doing, Leon Edwards was also a striker and people thought he was boring because they didn't think he went after it enough. The same needs to be said for a ground person. Here's the thing. In today's day and age, though, it's like, sorry, you can't be a Ryan Bader anymore. And the reason why you can't do it is because it's not enough to, A, win the fights on the ground.
Yeah.
The scoring criteria is objectively changed and it's different. It will not win you the fight anymore. I don't think too many people can get by on just pure wrestling. Yeah. I think it is also a development. It is one of those things like, you kind of have to be more well-rounded. Oliveira, he is one of the most beloved fighters on the planet. And what is he most known for? It's the ground game, but he developed the hands as well because he wasn't winning. And the thing is, like as much as we want to talk about Mokaev's ability, Luke Thomas was talking about this yesterday in his video. It's like, he's got a lot of flaws. Like, if he makes it to that title picture, he's probably going to lose because he just doesn't have enough tools.
I think Dana also looks at it like, if you aren't able to push for the finish and be aggressive and do damage on top, then you're probably not good enough to be here. Is probably also what he looks at it. Anyway.
It's also like...
Sometimes you are, though.
Dana probably got in this as a fan as well, right? And he was a fan of these guys and a fan of the sport. And we're all excited by people getting crazy finishes. But then it pushes money. The more you have an exciting guy... it's going to bring more money in because everyone's going to watch him. Why would you keep a guy around if he's not doing anything for you? It's your company. You can do what you like. I kind of don't disagree with it, though. Like, for me and what I like to watch, I think, why aren't you exciting?
I don't disagree.
You should be exciting.
I don't disagree.
You should be trying to finish. The contest, why we love it is because it's one-on-one. If I'm a fan of someone, I'd rather see them get finished than lose a decision. Because you know that that
Go
guy.
out on your shield, please.
Yeah,
fighters.
You know that guy is clearly way better.
I think you need to take a fight more than anyone in this room.
We don't want him to get finished.
You don't seem to have an appreciation for like hey, that's really fucking hard, dude.
I do have an appreciation because
You're just like, I find it boring.
No, but this is my life, like it's all about.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of MMA. Like I do appreciate it. I understand the skills in place, but it's like for to get behind someone in the same way, for me to go on Twitter and be like, how fucking dare they ditch Mokaev? I can't believe this. It's because Mokaev's never won me over.
I mean, look,
And there's going to be a lot of people that feel a similar way that, you know, you got to be excited. It seems harsh because these guys are putting their lives on the line, but this is also their job that they're willing to do.
for me,
Fucking Gen Z over
I don't even. I kind of agree with what he's saying. And to answer the question for the final time, do they suppress talent? Yes, but in my mind, they're not necessarily always the most talented. Because Mokaev might have beaten a lot of guys, but it's more impressive if you can finish people, in my opinion. You are more talented than the other guy if you finish the guy, however you did it. And if you're not finishing people, then you're not as talented and you don't
Are you
deserve.
serious?
Yeah.
Usman won the belt with basically pure wrestling.
Sure, there's nothing wrong with that.
He's better than
But
Woodley.
if he'd finished
He
Woodley...
beat him. He beat him.
But if he finished Woodley, would have been more impressive.
It would have been more impressive, but what you're saying is they're suppressing talent because they're not good, but they're winning titles.
Not as good. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. They're not as good as the people who are getting finishes. Shavkat Rakhmonov is more impressive to me because he finishes people.
Well, I think
compared to other
Shavkat
people.
is, Shavkat is, we'll see how it goes, but he might just be a generational talent.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
a weird comparison
That's
to make.
fine. Well, he's finishing everybody. That's why I picked him, right? So to me, you got two guys in the division. One guy's getting finishes. One guy is controlling people for 15 minutes. Dominant performances. To me, if you're finishing people, it's a better performance. And so you do deserve the push more than the other guy.
Right. So the other side of that argument is if you're so fucking good at one thing that you can nullify literally everything else about somebody else's game as well-rounded as they are, then you're better at that one thing that they are cumulatively. Whether it's entertaining or not, you just are because you're winning the fight. You're beating them.
You have to
yeah.
limit your expectations of what you're going to receive as the fighter if you just nullify someone. If you finish them, everything in the world that you want.
I think
if
it's
you
more
just
impressive.
if you nullify someone, it's like you won, but that's all it was.
Why do you think Dana traded Demetrius Johnson for Ben Askren as well?
Well, because he was getting finishes in all of his fights and no one fucking cared. Well, the division wasn't successful. Plain and straight away.
That's the answer.
And people still say it to this day. Literally, when I made a video about him, it was my first video on the channel. People were like, he's a tiny, weeny little man. Like, that's all they were saying. They didn't care that he knocked out Joseph Benavidez.
Yeah.
They didn't give a fuck about that. They did not care about the flying arm bar against Ray Borg. They didn't care about the literal last second finish on Horiguchi. If you look back at his, so you want to talk about finishes, he had finishes in almost all of his fights. He had 2 or 3 decisions in that entire run. What was 11 consecutive title defenses? I think he had 3 decisions in that whole lot.
Yeah, but from
Great point.
he was finishing everybody though.
But I mean, maybe that's an experiment by Dana, because he's done that.
Did they bring Ben
He's done
back
that
to
before.
tease GSP out of retirement? Is the other question?
No, this is a great point. DJ was not seen as exciting. Ben Askren had a little steam behind him. He didn't have an exciting style. So, that's a really great counter argument. There's a pure wrestler who, as we saw in the Damian Maia fight, had nothing on the feet, even against another grappler.
But he just finished his last fight, I believe, was Shinya Aoki, so 50-second finish. So it's a first round 50-second finish. He's a wrestler, but he's still doing that.
Yeah, but look at the rest of his fights.
Yeah.
Look at the
Well, in one, he was demolishing people.
No. Well, because it was fucking one championship.
I know, but
yeah,
he's
no,
still getting finishes.
no, I know. That's not the point. The point is when he fought competitively good people like Douglas Lima, what did that look like?
It was a decision.
Decision.
He still beat him.
What did it look like when he fought Koreshkov?
I don't remember the crash.
Decision.
Fight. Yeah.
Because, the thing that people, always say is the UFC won in that because Ben Askren drew. And there's no doubt about that. He absolutely did. I think another point to make on this, there was a video that I've kind of based one of my own concepts around is the strength of some of these divisions. And so you look at 205 pounds. You go 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, you've got NCAA Division I wrestlers. You have guys like Phil Davis. You have guys like Ryan Bader, all in the light heavyweight division at the same time. DC and Olympians there. I know it was only junior college for John Jones, but he was a wrestler. Where are those guys now? Is it because of this lack of appreciation for wrestling that wrestlers are like, well, I'm just going to go do something else now. I'll be Jordan Burroughs and I'll figure out a way to monetize my talent. Gable Stevenson, who just, said, I will go to WWE. And after that didn't work out, he's going to like an NFL, tryout or something. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't follow NFL too much.
I think he wants to make money. That's the sensible thing, isn't it?
Well, you can make a fuck ton of money in MMA.
Not if you lose.
Yeah, not if you lose. But you're also not appreciated for being a pure wrestler. So what do? You find something else. And it is reflected in those heavyweight divisions right now. Well, we really got into this one, guys.
Into the weeds.
I actually really enjoy it because there's a bit of verbal sparring in this one.
It's a good conversation.
For me, it's fun. But if you do like to hear that sort of thing and you want to get more pissed at us, you could sign up and be a member and support us. That doesn't make any sense at all.
For if you spend the $2.99 to get the members, you can actually watch Jason just control me for 5 minutes over there. It's really good. Just over there. Just in the corner. He cage fucks me. So
yeah, and he says I like wrestling now.
Yeah,
I love wrestling now. It's not boring at all.